Alrighty, ladies and gentlegrots, we have got a patch, and well, we haven't actually technically got the patch yet, but we have got an early look at the upcoming balance update. So this is November the 30th, 2023, and we're about to go into our first ever competitive season. So this is great timing, super exciting. I know a lot of you are getting a bit bored with the meta, things feeling a bit stale. Boy, have we got have we got an update. I mean, this patch is like, I was wondering how they were going to approach this, and you know, let's just say they've not been shy about making changes. This is a pretty hefty patch. So, Holy Emperor boys, let's dive in and see what is changing. So, they start by telling us that, after the first month of collecting and fighting, obviously, things are stabilizing. They're starting to see strategy. So obviously, Everguild are getting the data on the games, and they're obviously seeing, what's being played, what's been successful, win rates, etc., etc. And they did mention, for example, here that Chaos only, the best builds only achieve a 40% win rate. So that in itself absolutely tells you that there's some fundamental flaws with the faction. Meanwhile, I think the Ultramarines were getting, I think Manius Calgar was on a 76.2% win rate. That is absolutely bonkers, and puts to bed really any argument that, Ultramarines weren't OP. There's some strange language in here about kind of like the lore and people picking them because of the lore, and I'm thinking, no. The reason why 80% of the top 20 players on ladder are there is not because they grew up reading about Space Marines and they're their favourite chapter. They're there because the faction's OP. Now, personally, I don't think I'm saying this in context of many other CCGs and thinking about metas that we go through with like an oppressive meta deck. I personally don't think the Ultramarines were that oppressive. Honestly, I think a few small tweaks we could have definitely gone a long way to rebalance the win rates, and they weren't that bad because they were very beatable. I think the reason why they had such a good win rate is the consistency of the deck. So when you were playing ladder, and combined with the horrendous system that we've got of, losing 40 points if we lose one game, only getting 10 points if we win another, it doesn't encourage you to be creative, to test new decks. It encourages you to play the decks that are really, really consistent, and the most consistent deck was Manius Calgar. So, but either way, like they've said, there's a 76.2% win rate. And even with Varo, I think he had a 65.9% win rate as well. So they are making some changes, and let's dive in and have a look at what those changes are. So starting with the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines have seen the greatest degree of success, as we just said. They got the 70. Manius got the 76%. Varo got the 65.9% win rate. So they're aiming to rein in the more oppressive Ultramarine strategies, toning down some of the most widely used cards. So the first card, which I'm very happy to see being addressed, I think it was top of my list. If you go back and see the video I did on changes that I want to see, you'll see I talked about the Octavio Infiltrator, and the Octavio Infiltrator is unbelievable as a one drop currently. I mean, I really do think this is the card that wins a lot of the games for the Ultramarines. They're changing the effect to say rally the effect, give blind to a damaged enemy instead of give blind to an enemy. So my suggestion was about kind of, do we make it random like the 4-drop? Do we make it a codex ability? They've kept it as rally, and they've kept it with being able to choose the target, but now the target has to be damaged. Now I have to say, this is a huge change to the card. Now it's still obviously a powerful ability, but I think now where you're going to see this being used is much more as a tech card for fighting against big units. So where you've got this big unit, you think, I just can't get through it, we've got on the board, and then you've chipped away at it, and then you whack down the Infiltrator and blind it and try to take it out that way. But this is a huge change. Like, if you think about the tempo swings that could achieve, not being able to just face off against an enemy vanguard or an enemy flyer and just immediately slam this, followed by the followed by your own Inceptor Sergeants. This is a big change. Am I happy with it? I'm fairly happy with it. I'm fairly happy with this one. It needed toning down. It was too strong, and it'll bring out new strategies, I think, this one. So, okay, so let's look at the Primus Inceptor. So basically, they lowered the range attack from 4 to 3. Now, as you know, the Primus Inceptor is again one of the best 3-drops in the game. So we're going now. It's going to be a 2/3. It's still a flyer and it's still got flank. So I do think that this card will still see play. People will feel very bitter for a while, having known what it used to be, and losing his little buddy that used to put everything down to 1. Used to blind everything as well. I mean, this card almost inadvertently takes a double nerf there, but I still think in its own right, a 3-mana flyer with flanking that can do 3 range, I think it will be played. It definitely won't be relegated to the complete sin bin, but it might not be as prevalent, it might not be in every deck. Honor Guard, they've lowered the Honor Guard from range 4 to 3. I'm not sure that was necessary, to be honest. Will Honor Guard, I think Honor Guard will still be played. It's still got the 5 health and it's still got the 4 melee attack, so I think it'll still be played, but this is one that I look at and I'm like, I'm not sure it really needed it, to be honest. Inceptor Sergeant, so increase the melee attack from 3 to 4 and lower the range attack from 6 to 5. So for those who don't know, this is the 6-drop. Where's it gone? Inceptor Sergeant. So we're basically bringing these stats closer together. Instead of a 3/6, it's a 4/5. You know, there's quite a lot of units that have 6 health. Losing that 6 could... It doesn't sound like a lot, but that could be quite a big deal. The other thing is, of course, we used to play this again with things like the Octavia, the 1-drop that blinded units, and we're not going to have that. We might now start seeing more of the 4-drop, the Sergeant guy who blinds, because that doesn't need to be a wounded unit. We might start seeing more of that, but this guy, will we see him? I don't think we'll see him in every deck, but I still think, you know, again, it's a big body, it's a 6 health flyer that flanks, so it's definitely going to have a place in the game. It's definitely not like being nerfed into oblivion, but I do think it will make a difference. I do think it will be less proficient than what it has been. Okay, so what have we got next up? So the Primaris Judicer, we've lowered the melee attack and health from 6 to 5. So the melee attack and the health from 6 to 5. Whew. So now it's a 5/2 for 5 with 5 health. I think that that's quite a tough nerf, Marines. I think when you're playing a Vanguard unit, like, you know, the health is possibly the most important stat that you're looking at. I don't mind the 6 to a 5 too much, but I think losing the point of health was a bit too much. And I think this card will be... I run this card currently in my Ultramarine deck. It's a really good card in the current Ultramarine deck. I think it will become more situational. I don't think it's guaranteed anymore. But in a Codex themed deck, it probably will still see play. But it's another tough one. I mean, the general theme here is Ultramarines really did get hit with a bat, didn't they? Next up, we've got the Librarian. They changed description to Codex draw a card and give shield to your Warlord. Now, this is apparently the first buff, right? Currently it just says draw a card. So now it's draw a card and give a shield. And the Librarian was already pretty good, to be honest. And there was just too many other good cards. But I think with the nerfs, I think this is actually going to definitely start seeing play, and there's probably a really good Librarian, a really good Legendary for the top end of like an aggro deck. I think this could be really good because it's going to keep Kind of works in it. Man, I say that it kind of works in control as well, right? Because of the shield. I mean, it's just a good card. It was already good, but it's really good. I think we're going to see a lot more librarian and a lot more decks centered around him with Ultramarines. That's a good change. And it feels like the right power level for a legendary as well. That's kind of what we want. We want legends to have impact and like feel good when we play them. So point blank shot, obviously this is the 2 drop, which basically does 2 damage, and you used to draw a card. Now it says only if the target dies, draw a card. I like that. I like that. I think it was probably a little bit too powerful for 2 mana, because the 2 damage is basically paying 1 energy, sorry, to draw a card. Part of me wonders whether it should have just become 3, potentially a 3 cost card. But I quite like it. I quite like the challenge. You know, trying to. It's a bit like how you've got to manage your spending for Codex. Now you've got to manage your damage to get it, and you'll still get that a lot of times, right? It'll just be about the order in which you attack things. So I still think that point blank is okay, and it still does 2 damage, right? So even just like imagine it's late game, it's in your hand, you're in an aggro deck, you're trying to burn face, and it still does 2 damage. So I think point blank is it's still going to see play. Death from above has reduced from 5 to 4. We all know like Marines were ending games with double death from above, and I did think that 5 damage from a hand was very powerful, and I think I don't know yet whether this is a good change or not, but I do think long term in the health of the game, something needed to change with this card. Having access to 2 of them as well, where you can just do 5 damage from hand to anything, was going to really limit play styles, builds, and whatnot going forward. So I think changing it to 4 is good. You think about playing 2 of them now, it's kind of like 8 damage, similar to Wailing Doom. Obviously, Wailing Doom has a better effect if you pay stones as well, but Wailing Doom is a legendary card, so you know. I do think that it feels expensive now, so you're paying a real premium to be able to have that ability, which is to just do 4 damage from face, which is powerful still. So it's going to be interesting. I think this is one that we're going to need to see being played. I think either it's gone too far, or I think give it a month, people will forget it ever was 5, and it'll still be used in every deck. So, but I think it's right to change it, and let's see what happens this month with that card. Now, Angels of Death. Angels of Death already received a nerf. If you remember, it was 6 mana a few weeks ago. It's now gone up to 7 energy. Sorry, I keep saying mana. I'm so used to saying mana instead of energy for cost, but it's energy in this game, isn't it? So look, the big change now. Not only has it gone up from 6 to 7 energy, but now only giving you 3 troops instead of 4. So when we think about the troop that it's giving us, the Intercessor, you know, you would pay, not that anybody ever puts this in their deck, but if you were, it would cost you 2 energy. So you think you're going to get 3 of these now, so that would be like 6 energy, and then they all get flank. So you're paying 1 energy to then essentially give all 3 of them flank. It sounds reasonable when you calculate it that way, except for the fact that no one would ever pay 2 energy for this guy. And I think AOD was, when they put it up to 7 energy, I think it was okay. It was still very powerful, but it wasn't, it just felt like a really good quality, powerful card, but it didn't feel overpowered to me. I think going down to 3 troops is not bad, but I think if they're going to go down to 3 troops, it should also go down to 6 cost again. I think that's the big thing that I would suggest, is that if we're going down to 3 troops, I think it should be 6 cost. I feel like 7 is just a little bit expensive now, and it's kind of lame. There's still a lot of other flanking units and stuff in the deck. I just don't know whether 3 for 7 energy is really worth it anymore, to be honest. So overall, Holy Emperor, did the Ultramarines get hit with a nerf bat? I mean, there's one buff in there, which is the Librarian, and so many of their meta cards got hit, and I think that my instinct tells me that that's going to be really hard for Ultramarines. I think that it's a little bit of a mistake to go that heavy on the nerf bat, because, you know, that 76% win rate, if you make 2 of these changes in the most common played decks, it will completely change that. It will completely change the dynamic. Just the change to Octavia Infiltrator would change it, I think. You know, especially that and Angels of Death, that would completely change the win rate. And we've gone so heavy on so many of the cards that now I worry that, you know, from a deck building perspective, you know, maybe I wanted to play on a guard in a different deck, or play the, you know, so it's like, have we just gone too heavy on the Ultramarines? I'm not sure. Let's move on to the Goth Orc. So the Goth clan has seen all degrees of success this month, but unfortunately their decks have not been as varied as we would have liked. The Goth vehicle focus card have seen little play during this month, so we're aiming to give them a push and make them more attractive to build around them. Boom, another one that I added in my video for changes that I wanted to see. I'm so happy about this. I'm so happy that just that, regardless of the changes themselves, just the principle that they are addressing the vehicles. Hallelujah, this is cool. It's too cool a theme to kind of brush over. So let's have a look. So the first thing is Gazgul Mag-Uruk Thraka. His talent is changing. Now, one of the we're going to come on to Abaddon later, who's also got a buff, but what I love in principle about this change, and I talked about this in my video, is that I think with a Warlord, when you're sitting there on the first turn with 2 energy, you should always be able to do something with your Warlord. I think that would be good design, and obviously currently that's not the case. So with Gazgul, now what they're saying is that if you don't have any troops on the board, and that's important because this is not an option, this is not optional, this is not like choose between 2 abilities, it's only if you don't have any troops on the board, then you can deploy 2 grots. That's fantastic for the first turn. It's fantastic throughout the game because you trade, you know, imagine it's like turn 7 even, you know, you've traded the board, you've got an empty board, you start off with the hero, the Warlord talent, play the 2 grots, and then you develop your board. So it enables Gazgul to kind of like always accelerate the tempo, if you like, and it sort of gives him a choice between okay, do I want to put more bodies down, or do I want to buff the bodies that I've got? Like, there's going to be some good timing and tactics and stuff that you can play there. Overall, I'm really looking forward to trying this. I think it's really cool, and I think this tips Gazgul into a good Warlord category now. I think he was very situational before, but now I think this is going to make him really good. I think Gazgul's going to be a real force this season. I mean, he's competing with one of the best wall bosses in the game in Face Ripper, but I think Gazgul is going to be really, really good, and I'm really happy that they've made a change. Now, whether it should be 2 grots or not, and I know some people are saying, you know, he's the greatest wall boss ever and he can only rally 2 grots. It's like, maybe it should have been like an Orc Nob or an Orc Boy, or you know, a Nob would be too powerful, but like a Slugger Boy or something like that. But I don't know, I kind of like it. Can't wait to try that one. Now, the Spanner just says it's improved the random bonus given to vehicles, so that's nice. I'm really looking forward to playing more of that synergy with Spanner and vehicles. It doesn't actually tell us what the how much it's improved or how, so there's still a lot of mystery in this one. It's nice to know there's an improvement, but we don't really know what that means. The Deathcopter's increased from melee attack from 2 to 3. That wasn't the issue with the Deathcopter. Deathcopter's not a bad unit anyway. I just think 2 to 3, great. It's not really going to change much. It's not really what was you were running the copter for. It's still got a better attack on the ranged anyway. The thing that they've missed the boat on for me with all of these vehicle updates is that the thing that was really problematic is unstable, and they haven't addressed the unstable mechanic. They haven't touched it, so I'm a bit sad about that. But you know, they have at least buffed the vehicles, so it's like still got the great risk and consequence, but at least we're going to get a better reward. But the Deathcopter is a non-entity, I think, that the extra melee attack. Now, the Killer Can used to be a 5/7 5 melee attack and 7 range, and now what they're making them is 7/7. So 7 melee, 7 range, all for 5 mana. You've got 5 energy and you've got 5 health. So yeah, I think we'll see killer cans, particularly in vehicle decks. It's a lot of your opponent can't play around it now with attacking the 5 melee attack. It's 7 damage. So if you want to trade with the killer can, be prepared to take some damage. And yeah, combination with things like spanners, killer cans could become crazy. They still only got 5 health though, so they can be taken out. You need to think about like the change to the Ultramarine, back to the Ultramarine one though. The death from above now only being 4 instead of 5, so that's like something that would have taken a killer can out but can't anymore. Okay, so the Boom Daka Snazwagon. Now, I was playing these cards anyway. A lot of people don't like them, but I just think flank's so powerful, and the fact that it had high range attack, taking out flyers. So to basically go up from 4 to 5 health, I think what that means is that often now it can trade with more units and still survive. So that's a really great change and just makes the Snazwagon even better. It was pretty good anyway. Now the next one is the Squig Buddy. Now the Squig Buddy, it says lower ranged attack from 7 to 6. It now has flank. Guys, are we looking at the best card in the game? I don't know if I'm like so it's gone from 7 ranged attack to 6. Okay, 6 is absolutely plenty on turn 6. Now it says it now has strike. Now it's a little bit unclear in the way this is worded, because has it retained its ability? Because currently it has an ability, obviously it's got unstable, but it has an ability that says strike, deploy a bomb squid. And the bomb squid is backlash, so when it dies basically, do 2 to 3 damage to all enemies. So one of the things you could do with the Squig Buddy is charge something now with the flank. If the squig turns up next to the buggy, the unstable from the buggy blows up the bomb squid, and the bomb squid obviously does the 2 to 3 AoE damage. But the thing I just can't get my head around is that they've given this flank with that ability. Like, if that's what it's saying, I could definitely, the way it's written, it could be that it's lost the strike ability and it now has flank. Like, that is how you could read if you look at what it said. It just says lower range attack from 7 to 6. It now has flank. Okay, does it have flank in addition to that, or is it now has flank? Is that now its ability? It depends how we're reading that, but honest to God, if that is flank on top of that strike ability, this card is insanely good. This card is insanely good, guys. We've just got a new AoE in the game with the combination of a flank and taking out a big unit. That is so good. And quite honestly, I'm so surprised that Orkz didn't really need another flanker at 6. I mean, we already have, right? We have the Snazwagon at 5, which you've just boosted. We also have already the veteran Stormboy, which didn't get touched, by the way. The Marine one got touched, but this one didn't get touched. This card just got a buff, I think, in comparison. So we already had all those flanks, and now we're adding another 6 energy flank. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ork's my favourite faction at the minute. Like, this card I can't wait to play with. If that is seriously, I think that is going to be so busted. So busted and so OP, I can't even begin to tell you. But just be prepared that it could possibly have lost that ability. It just depends how they've worded it. Now the Death Dread. The Death Dread has gone up from 7 health to 8. Death Dread was already a good unit, to be honest. Didn't see play probably because the rest of the vehicle package wasn't that good. It did see a little bit of play. It did have a role in other like non-vehicle decks, but I think going up to 8, it's gonna see play more. I think it's a really solid 7 energy unit. It does something the turn it comes down. It's now really difficult to remove. I think Death Dread's, yeah, this is a good change. I like it. Now the next two I'm not massive on. The gun wagon in particular I think is pretty poor. So the gun wagon is a 477, and we've basically given it 5 melee attack and 8 health. That's what we've done. So it's gone +1 melee attack and +1 health, but we're paying 8 mana. It doesn't do anything on the turn. I mean, the thing is like, look, say it had Vanguard. When you drop it, because it's got concussive, they've got to attack you, and when they attack you, they also get concussed. That's something that's quite, you know, especially if you're new to the game, you might not know that. It's not just you attacking them that concuss, it's that if they attack you, they get concussed. That's what makes that ability a bit better than at first glance. However, they don't have to attack this, and I don't think it's enough to see play. I don't think it's going to see play. The next one is the Gorkanaut, which is a big, bad 9-drop, obviously ridiculously powerful, 9 health, and the 5 blast. Now, the thing with this, they've given it armor, so it really now is a tank, you know, in the literal sense. It's going to be great in draft mode. Is it going to be good in a ladder deck? I think it's probably still going to be too slow, to be honest. Possibly there is a Orc control deck that you could run now, where especially if you weren't sold on Rock Invasion, for example, as the finisher, maybe you'd have these, so you could actually bring out your finisher a turn earlier, because Rock Invasion costs 10. Potentially that I could see that, because the control deck can get to turn 9 quite comfortably. So yeah, but I mean, you're gonna have to really build around it, and I don't see it being like a staple. It's just too expensive. So there we go. That is the Orc deck. Overall, the Goth Orcs have got some really good buffs here. I think Orcs are like super coming out of this, like all singing, all dancing. They're going to be very powerful in the first season for sure. So looking forward to playing some Orcs. Lots of flexibility too. I don't think it's all about like one specific deck. I think the Orc faction is a great faction. If you're just getting into the game now, they're one of the better factions probably, because the flexibility of different builds you can make. So really like the spot that they're in right now. Soltec Dynasty. So look, the Necrons, they're saying had a 60% win rate, but they did create some, they call them frustrating board states that sentence their enemies. So they're tweaking some of those cards. So for example, the Psychomancer, you used to be able to drop this guy, and then every time you played any stratagem, you would stun a unit, and then another unit, and another unit, and then next turn you play more stratagems and keep stunning units. So he basically could just like lock the board down. What they're doing is they are buffing his health from 4 to 5, which is really good for a 4-drop, having 5 health. And instead they've changed the description to rally, stun an enemy, instead of being an artifice ability. Now, this is a kind of low-key buff in some ways, and a nerf in other ways. So apart from the 5 health, which is obviously a buff, if it is literally rally, stun an enemy, that means you can choose what you stun when you come down. So before it was random, so being able to choose the unit is really powerful, especially if you're going to be coming up against like Orcs, for example, where they might have like loads of grots down, but then like the big unit that you actually want to stun. So being able to actually select that is a buff, and being able to do it as rally means you don't need the additional energy to cast the stratagem. So before, because this guy was a 4-drop, you wouldn't often want to play him on turn 4, because then you can't actually play anything to get the stun off, so you'd need to play him turn 5 at the earliest. Whereas now you can play him on turn 4, automatically stun when they come down. So it's a bit of a buff and a bit of a nerf. I think it's just changed. I think its role has fundamentally changed, and I think overall it is a healthy buff. It's a healthy change. It's not really in keeping with the kind of, I guess, the gameplay kind of mechanics and style of the faction there, but I think overall this is a good change. Lichguard has the melee attacks lowered from 5 to 4. I think that's a good change. I'm kind of happy they didn't nerf Lichguard into the ground. Its main thing is it's such a tank, and it needed to remain that way, and it still is. It's just that it's slightly less threatening on the comeback with the 4 melee instead of 5, so I don't mind that too bad. Toon World, they've lowered the number of troops deployed from 6 to 5. I think this is a good change. I was also advocating for something similar. I mean, I could even see it being 9 energy instead of 8 and doing 5. It was so goddamn good, this card, that it's so OP that I think you could go even further with it. But certainly getting 5 units back means that perhaps you've got a chance of fighting back for the board without needing a little bit less removal and stuff than what you had. So Toon World's still a good card. It's still only 8 mana. It's still game winning, but this is a very good change, and I think we keep an eye on it. If it's oppressive going forward, it could even go up in cost. But overall, so overall, the Celtic Dynasty, I think, pretty good. Necrons are not too badly hit by nerfs. So next up we have Abaddon. The Black Legion. It says Abaddon and his Crusader fallen short this month, and none of the faction warlords have seen a win rate over 40%. So they made a lot of changes to the Chaos Pool, and first and foremost, they've changed Abaddon's talent himself. So similar to Ghazghkull, Abaddon had this problem where the first turn there was nothing for him to do, and often the second turn there wasn't as well, because his talent cost 2 energy. Even if you developed a unit on the second turn, you didn't have 2 energy left then to use it, so it was just useless for 2 turns. What they're saying now is that he can give a random pack to a friendly troop, or +2 health to your warlord. Now, what's interesting about this, and different to Ghazghkull, is the way that that's worded suggests that you can choose every turn, right? So, first of all, that's huge. Like, anything that gives you flexibility of choice and agency means that you can respond to more situations with more solutions. So, that's really good. It's also interesting, like this plus. It says give a friendly troop or +2, so give +2 health to your warlord. It doesn't say heal, it says give 2 health to him. So that sounds like it can go over 40 health. And we know from Imatech, who's also got 40 health and an ability that every turn can heal, that can turn these big beefy warlords into real tanks. So Abaddon now, it seems like there's going to be some really interesting opportunities to build some more kind of late game builds with Abaddon, where he can kind of heal himself and just kind of keep himself alive to go deep into the late game, which I'm really excited about. I really want to test that out, and I don't know. I don't know how impactful it's going to be overall, but I think it's going to be really impactful because, obviously, like any type of aggro deck coming up against Abaddon, and he's just like, I can just ping for 2 health a turn. And also, a lot of the Chaos units, you want to get them on the board, and you want to be able to play stratagems with them to give them the dark packs. And the problem that's been up to now is that that's been a bit too slow of a strategy, whereas if you've got a 40 health warlord that can heal himself, not even heal himself, sorry, give himself +2 health in the first few turns, I think you can dictate the pace a lot more as the Chaos boss now. So I'm looking forward to trying Abaddon. I think this is going to be really interesting, really interesting. Now, the Noise Marine, this is a really good change. Noise Marine now is a great troop. It says lower the melee attack from 2 to 1, which sounds bad, right? Because he's only got 2 range attacks. So now he's a 1-2. However, they've increased his health from 3 to 4. And basically, the ability of the Noise Marine is that when the Warlord takes damage, he basically gets +2/2 to melee and ranged. It's the Dark Pact, I've forgotten what it's called, Excess or something. So what you're looking at for a 3 cost card, and I'll show you on here. We don't want Orkz. Yeah. So for a 3 cost card, Noise Marine is now going to be a 3/4 with 4 health for 3 energy, because we're going to play it and obviously attack with our Warlord and get that damage. So that's a really good started card for 3 energy. That's really powerful. And remember, it can keep going. If it doesn't get dealt with by our opponent, then we don't stop there. We can keep adding those +2/2 bonuses. So That is super good. Really good change for Chaos. 2 really good changes there. Now the Possessed Marine has increased health from 3 to 4. This is the 3 energy charger that has 4 attack, and then it has 0 range attack. So I don't think this change really matters, to be honest, because even if he survives because of the extra health, he's going to attack. What matters with the flanker is the top attack, and his top attack was 4. And the problem is that on the comeback, they're just going to attack his ranged attack anyway, which is 0. So the fact that he's got 1 extra health, it doesn't change how they're going to attack him and still kill him anyway. So I don't think this is a meaningful change. I could be wrong, but I'm not too excited about it. I don't think it really changes that card, to be honest. Next up, we got Master of Executions. Increased strike ability from 3 to 3/5. Now, I already liked this card. I've literally just finished my premium campaign, so I'm getting started with Chaos. But I quite liked this card anyway. So let's just have a quick look. Master of Executions. So basically, he's a 4 energy card. He's got 5 health. He's going to be doing, he can trade with a minion, and as long as he doesn't die, he deals 3 to 5 damage to the enemy ward. Wow, guys. This is like getting up there with Death from Above range. And we're trading, potentially still having a body on the board. I mean, this is really good. Obviously, the big downside is he's got to survive, right? You've got to drop him, and he's got to survive, and then he's got to be able to get a strike off and survive that as well. And I think that's the main issue with the Master of Executions. But man, maybe, I don't know, maybe in the late game, playing him and getting a buff, get a Dark Pact on him at the same time, so he can make that happen. I don't know. It's interesting though. It's a scary buff in a way, because if you do get it off, it's a lot of damage. So now we've got Orkz. So this is the legendary card, and they've given him Bloodthirst. So instead of doing strike, get 2 Dark Pacts, which was okay, wasn't bad, but now what he does is he gets Bloodthirst. So we all know from Tyranids, Bloodthirst allowing a unit to strike twice is super powerful, and each time he does strike, he gets a Dark Pact. So he'll still end up getting the same number of Dark Pacts potentially, but able to Bloodthirst. Now, is this good? Yeah, it's very good. It's good because it allows you to set this guy up as a bit of finisher. Like, we wouldn't just drop him on turn 5, but if we were to play him a bit later and buff him, yeah, that could be a real kind of game ender, that ability. Still a bit clunky to actually get off, and that's why I'm not sure he will be kind of dominating the meta, but I could be wrong on that. A couple of small changes. That the sorcerers increase range attack from 5 to 6. Okay, a little bit more competitive in the trades. Hellbrute has increased its trigger damage from 1 to 1 to 2. So that's nice. Every time we play a stratagem, instead of pinging off 1 damage, it's potentially up to 2 each time. So really good kind of like late game card. Obliterator has changed from melee attack 4 to 6. You know, I'll tell you what. You know, the Obliterator is a common card, and now that's a 6/8, 8 health and 7, and remember you can put the armor card on him as well, which only costs 1. He's not bad, you know. And I could, if you were playing in a Black Crusade deck as well, and you obviously wanted the quality of those 4 troops to be high, maybe Obliterator is even playable in a competitive deck now. I don't know, but they're really good stats for a 7-drop, but it just doesn't do anything on the turn it drops. That's the issue with it. But you know, it's a starter card, so it's not bad. It's a good change. Mauler Fiend changed description to Armor 1, Strike, deal 1 damage for all enemies with Dark Pact instead of only on this troop. That's a huge difference. That's a huge difference. So Mauler Fiend now is an AoE, is a board clear. I mean, that's such a big difference. Like, you could never get this guy down for his cost and then try to get loads of Dark Packs on him and then get this off. So like now being able to build a board obviously with Dark Packs on other troops and get Mauler Fiend off, yeah, it's good. It's still a little bit slow. It's still a bit slow, but he does have armor, which he didn't have, and that's another big change. So giving him it mightn't sound a lot, guys, but armor 1 on a 9 health unit is actually massive. That's like, it's going to almost half a lot of the damage that because it's every time he's hit right, and you're going to need to hit this guy several times to take him out. So armor 1 now is really big on this guy, and again, in a late game kind of Black Crusade type of deck, this could be an actual card now. This is good. This is what we needed to see from Chaos. We needed to see a bit more competitiveness in the late game cards. Whether they'll actually be good enough to be playable is another question, because they're still expensive. That's the primary characteristic of these cards. And you know, if the game's over by turn 7, what good is a 9 energy Mauler Fiend? But we'll see. It's going to be one to play with. Next up, we've got the other legendary Kaon. He had this horrible ability that said it lowered the cost by 1 of any stratagems created by his ability, and now it's lowered by 2. Guys, you're never going to see this guy played. He's still rubbish. He's still way too slow. One of the slowest cards in the game. If the meta ever slowed down to a snail's pace, then yes, he would be adding value using this ability. He would be gaining your value every time he did, but it's not going to get seen. Hosts of Chaos has been lowered from 4 to 3. Now, I really like this. I think this is a really good card, because Hosts of Chaos was already not bad. I actually think my first build, I think I put it in, and I think I could see value for it. Here it is. You play this a lot if you do the practice mode. If you need dark packs on your dailies, you play on practice mode, and you get this card in there in the Abaddon deck. Basically, a lot of other factions draw 2 cards. This type of card where you draw 2 cards costs 3 energy, and it was always a bit expensive in Chaos, being 4. Obviously, you got the 2 Abaddon's Chosen cards, which cost 1 energy themselves. So now you're getting potentially 4 cards for 3 energy. This is really good. It's really good. I think that is playable. At the very least, one of those I could see making it into a lot of decks. So what do we think then, guys? Let me know in the comments what you think to Chaos. I personally think that they're really interesting changes. They've made a lot of buffs, which is great. They've recognised the 40% win rate. They were really needed. Whether those changes will be enough to be actually impactful, I don't know. It's too early to say, but they're certainly interesting enough for me to want to go and build a whole bunch of decks and test out stuff here. So yeah, good job, well done, Everguild. Let's play some Chaos and let's see what we can make. Last but not least, we have the Simharm, Aeldari. And basically what they're saying here is that they felt quite consistent in their strategies, but not oppressive or dangerous enough to apply considerable changes to their card pool. However, Iliak, who's their 40 health warlord, they're basically saying that his talent has not felt good enough to play with. Thank God. This is a change that we've all been crying out for. And so they have changed it. And they've changed the description to give Shuriken 1 to your units this turn. So 1 letter change there, because it used to be a unit this turn, and now it's units. That's pretty powerful. It makes me think of Gazgul, where he can give everybody obviously +1, and it works well when you've got lots of units, but not so well when you've only got 1. Similar thing, it's not one that you want to be tapping every turn, so you're going to need a good curve with this guy, because you're not going to want to play that every turn. But there will be some turns, some key turns when you're trading, that giving everything +1 Shuriken. And remember, this stacks, right? So that means that your units that already have 2 Shuriken, or your Guardians that have 1 Shuriken, they now get 2. So it's the stacking, I think, is one you need to play, but I think potentially this could be a really powerful ability, but situational. So yeah, good. He needed a change. That definitely makes it much more playable. I'm really keen to do some testing with that. I think that's good enough to try out. And the other thing that they've done is change the description. Is Blackout. Change description to the first troop each turn costs 1 less. That was the That's just the game stratagem, wasn't it? So not much changes there to Simharm, but really glad to see that they tackled the Iliac. So we've now got a third warlord that's playable in the Aeldari. So it says the changes will soon be available in the game with the upcoming update, and the update will also prepare the game for an exciting future. Bringing the first, and I'm genuinely excited, guys. I can't wait for the first ever WARPFORGE competitive season, and I think they say in here it's going to be early next week. Get ready to check your decks, polish your strategy, and fight to the last drop of blood. Good luck on the battlefield. So I don't know whether this patch is going to drop between like now and Sunday, and we'll get to use this a little bit in the practice season before the new season, or whether they're saying it will drop with the new season. But either way, great to have some communication from Everguild, so thank you so much for that, and really great that we're seeing such a change up to the meta. Overall thoughts, guys, I mean, I do think they've gone a little bit too heavy on the Ultramarines. I kind of don't think this was necessary. I feel a bit sorry. I think Ultramarines are going to really struggle. I really think they're definitely going to go from the top tier deck to falling down the ranks quite a bit, and I think they're going to struggle to keep up because a lot of their units have been hit, and to be honest, it doesn't leave many units that are kind of like strong in comparison. So I think Ultramarines have been a little bit unfairly done to there with the nerf hammer. But other than that, I think the game, other than Ultramarines, I think the game really opens up now with the other decks. So I'm really excited to jump in and see. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Anything that I've kind of said about any of the cards that you agree with or disagree with, let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts on these changes? Let me know what you think they've got right, or which change you're particularly which are you most looking forward to, which are you going to go and play first. That's what's killing me. I'm like looking at it as a deck build, I'm thinking, oh my god, there's so many decks I want to build. It's so exciting though, isn't it, guys? So exciting. So there we got it. Yeah, if you enjoyed this content, go and check out my video on changes that I want to see. Go and check out the Forge class series that me and Ecclesiarch do, where we showcase some of the top matches. And yeah, why not consider subscribing to the channel while you're here. I do really appreciate you being here, appreciate all your help and support. Until the next one, I'll see you soon.